All right, today we're diving into a text that's as mysterious as it is influential, the ancient Book of Enoch. For centuries, this thing has totally captivated scholars and spiritual seekers, and a big part of that is because of one central puzzle.
So think about this for a second. What if there was a book that helped shape the ideas and the language of the New Testament? A book that was even quoted by its authors, but was ultimately left out of the Bible. That is the puzzle at the very heart of the Book of Enoch.
Okay, so to even begin to tackle a puzzle that big, we first have to get a handle on what this ancient and mysterious text actually is. So let's start with the basics. So, the Book of Enoch is this ancient Jewish religious work. Tradition says it's attributed to Enoch himself. You know, Noah's great-grandfather. If you remember from Genesis, he's that super mysterious figure who walked with God and then just vanished. Well, this book claims to tell us what he saw. We're talking incredible visions of heaven, angels, demons, and prophecies about the end of days. The whole shebang.
But here's the thing. A text this old and this complex, it's not exactly straightforward. How we read it and what we get out of it really depends entirely on the lens we use to interpret it.
Yeah, think of it like putting on different pairs of glasses. You can look at the exact same text, but depending on the lens you choose, you're going to see completely different worlds. And when it comes to Enoch, there are three main ways that people have learned to see it.
So broadly speaking, here are the three approaches. First, you can read it as literal history, a direct account of what Enoch actually saw and did. Second, you could see it as a symbolic text, where all the stories are really just allegories for deeper spiritual truths. And finally, there's the lens of translation itself. You just have to recognize that different versions can subtly, or sometimes, dramatically, change the meaning.
And this really brings us to the two most common viewpoints. You've got the literal history camp, who see the book as this incredible window into real, forgotten events, maybe even a lost chapter of pre-human history. But in contrast, the symbolic truth perspective would argue that the value isn't about historical accuracy. It's about the timeless spiritual lessons taught through its really vivid allegories.
So, no matter which lens you're using, why does this text still matter? Why is a book that's thousands of years old still the subject of conferences and really intense debate? Well, the answer is that its relevance today is surprisingly far-reaching. For historians, this book is an absolute treasure trove. It offers this rare glimpse into the mindset of Jewish society during the really crucial Second Temple period. That's the time between the Old and New Testaments. It helps us understand how they saw the cosmos, what their anxieties were. It's like we get to understand the very air they breathed.
Now, for anyone studying Christian origins, this text is, well, it's indispensable. Major concepts like the final judgment, the nature of demons, even the title Son of Man, a term Jesus uses for himself, are all explored in detail right here, long before they ever appeared in the New Testament. It's like finding a missing piece of the theological puzzle you didn't even know was lost.
And then, for more esoteric traditions, the book is a foundational text. I mean, its detailed descriptions of angelic hierarchies, the structure of the cosmos, and hidden divine knowledge have made it this continuous source of inspiration for people seeking to understand the unseen architecture of the universe.
So, if you're intrigued by all this and you want to learn more, where do you even begin with a text this vast? Let's lay out a path to start your own journey of discovery.
Okay, starting with solid sources is absolutely crucial. The R.H. Charles translation is a classic academic standard for the text itself. Now, to understand what you're reading, a commentary like M. Degishency is invaluable. And for a deeper analysis, academic articles from scholars like Watson or Cross can give you some fantastic historical and theological context.
And the great thing is, today, this kind of research is more accessible than ever before. You can find the primary texts on sites like the Internet Archive, dive into the latest scholarship through academic conferences, and connect with other people who are just as curious in online communities on places like Reddit and Facebook.
So it's pretty clear the story of this book is far from over. In fact, its ability to be read in so many different ways is probably the very thing that keeps it so alive and relevant today.
And this leaves us with a final question. Is the Book of Enoch simply an ancient text, a relic of a bygone era? Or is it more like a modern mirror, reflecting our own enduring questions about faith, the cosmos, and the unseen world? Perhaps the answer is that it's both, and that its story is still being written by every new reader who dares to open its pages.